Morning, y'all. What's up? We're doing some rearranging in here for the coffee shop. Got a bunch of jazz records here. A lot of stuff's had to be rearranged. We had to open up this wall because we're going to cut a window into that wall into the kitchen. I got records nigh on everywhere. Another blank wall here. I got new record cabinets coming. A bunch of Los Angeles jazz, Chicago jazz, more Chicago. That's the Mercury Emerson stuff. So there's quite a bit of stuff going on here. We got shelves and planking. If you see back here, the R&B, hip hop, soul. Now has another shelf back here. This is all my rock and roll stuff. There's blues on the top, actually, some country, classic rock, 80s rock, hard rock. So there's quite a bit of stuff happening here. I don't have much of an episode to make today. I'll give you a highlight when the first set of shelves come. It's been a crazy couple days. I'll get back to y'all soon. So that's the first set of cabinets. That's 8 feet, 5 shelves. Beautiful. Got 2 more. So there's the first set of shelves installed, minus their glass doors, which are going to be added the next few days. So that's on my West Coast and Chicago. And I still got to sort my Columbia and my RCA and put them down there. Bottom shelf's open, so I got some room to grow. Got some cleaning up in here. Bunch of New York jazz, Verve, Savoy. That stuff's all gonna go in the cabinets. Are gonna go here tomorrow. We're reusing the planks themselves. There's Blue Note, there's Prestige. It's quite a mess. There's all my Impulse and ABC and my Funk and Fusion stuff. Some miscellaneous stuff. So there's the empty shelves, and tomorrow they'll have 4 of those sitting there. It's a beautiful job my friend's done on these. I'm excited about it, but it's a lot of work. I'll show you what we've got done in the back. These are supposed to get done eventually as well. I think we're going to hold off for a little bit. There's another set of turntables right there. Got some electronic music. And then this is my wall of rock and country. And then my hip hop and my funk and soul, which is sitting back in there. So it's a pretty comprehensive thing we're doing here. And again, we're trying to create security for my records in the coffee shop. I don't want people walking off with Blue Notes while I'm making coffee. And so the best thing to do was build these locking cases. And that's what we're doing. So without having an episode to be made today, I'm just going to post some of this stuff to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what I've been up to. Kind of exhausted, sweaty, man bunning it again. But I'll give you some more updates as we get this stuff done. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. A little more update here. Got some more stuff straightened out. Got the other set of turntables back here. Whole nother DJ setup essentially. This room's kind of coming together. Still got some stuff to do in here, but like I said, we're making progress. That's all you can really hope for. The new shelving. There it is. That's Chicago and New York jazz. Plus all the great Big labels are on there too. Little butt. Little butt what? What little butt? I don't got no cat dick. I don't got no cat dick. So that's shelf number one. And again, there's doors coming in there. They're going to lock to keep my records safe when I'm not at the cafe. So that's pretty exciting. And again, there's the other DJ booth. And I have a third set, of course, that I take to my gigs, which you're not going to even see right now. So that's where we're at right now. I'll post a video. There's two more sets supposed to be coming today. Morning, everybody. How we doing today? It's a Wednesday morning. It's been a crazy week so far. Both of you saw the opening to this episode. You can see all the construction kind of going on around. And it's just record moving at this point. But there is things in motion. I'm sore. I'm old. Playing with records isn't as fun as it once was in terms of moving them. But we're making progress. I do want to share one little piece with you. This was sitting on top of a pile. And I want you to give this a listen. I'm talking about Hank Mobley. And there's always a good reason to talk about Hank Mobley. He's just one of the great, somewhat unheralded players of the era. Those of you who have become bigger jazz fans are well knowledgeable about Hank Mobley. But he's certainly a name that, when you're kind of into Miles and Coltrane and Herbie Hancock, and just kind of diving in, when you hear the name Hank Mobley the first time, you hear how people speak about him and the money his records fetch, it's a little bit like, who's Hank Mobley? And I remember Catino Mobley played in the NBA. He was actually like a nephew of Hank's, from what I understand. But so I knew the last name from that. Like, who's Hank Mobley? And Hank's just a special player. I talked about Hank quite a lot over the years. He's one of the great emoters. He was called the middle heavyweight champion of the tenor. I think it was Leonard Feather, if I remember. And that means Rollins and Coltrane are kind of the heavyweights. And Rollins and Mobley's kind of that middleweight guy. His tonality, it's softer. His bluster isn't as full of bravado and intensity. It's filled though with soul and the blues and the gospel of compassion. And Mobley's, to me, one of the most gentle spirits in jazz. And when you look at photographs of Mr. Mobley, this one's not going to really show you much, but he just has this gentle demeanor about him. And I've always said, if you can look at 3 or 4 photographs of a person, it can tell you quite a bit about their personality fairly quickly. And personality is one of the most important brushstrokes there is to comprehend what a jazz player is saying. You add in their experience and their environment with that personality, you're going to be able to know the context of how a guy's emoting and where he's coming from. And his personality is going to dictate how he handles those experiences. One guy might be militant and angry and frustrated and full of bluster in the same environment that a guy who's got a different personality might stay peaceful and calm and optimistic. And Mobley's that guy. He's got kind of that, I wouldn't say he's got a blasé, but he's like, we'll figure it out. Things are better now than my grandparents had it. Things are better than my great-grandparents had it. I'm not going to be too upset. He's got more of the Basie Ellington demeanor from that period where he's a bit more rolling with the times. And again, depending on the setting, who he's with, he can get fairly aggressive. But for the most part, he'd rather play kind of a smoother, creamier, melodic phrasing. He ends up being one of the great writers of jazz in the 60s. His Streak Up Blue Notes, really golden era stuff. From top to bottom, his Blue Notes, this is probably his 4th record, 1568, 1957. And boy, it's just, what a great record. It's not quite his prime, which would be Roll Call and No Room for Squares. Those early 59, 60, 61 records by him are probably his best stuff, his most cohesive stuff with people he's playing with. This has a bit of a different lineup for a Blue Note. Bill Hardman's on this, on the trumpet, who does show up on Blue Note occasionally, but he's more of a Savoy guy working in a bit of a different circle. Like I said, he does show up in a few Blue Notes. Curtis Porter's on this record. Sonny Clark, who I've talked about endlessly lately, is just one of the great pushers of hard bop. Paul Chambers and Art Taylor. along with Hank Mobley. So it's really quite a session. Curtis Porter is playing the alto and the tenor on this. I'm not too familiar with Curtis Porter, if I'm honest, but I've listened to this record a lot, as I've listened to most Blue Notes, especially 1500 through 4000, 4150 or so. I've listened to all that stuff a lot. Once we get into the 4200s, I've heard all that, but less. It doesn't quite stroke me the same way. But it's just a sensational record. This is a classic record, repressing from the early 2000s. They were selling these for probably what tone poets go today, 28, 29, 30 bucks. They've really stood the test of time. You know, being 25 years old, still have a wonderful, and like the tone poet, they do a wonderful job. However, these are a bit more even genuine reproductions because there's no gatefold, there's no added photographs. It's just the real reproduction with the real heavy gauge cardboard, the same laminate as the originals. Classic Records did really do a great job. I have a lot of Classic Records 1500 series Blue Notes because the 1500 stuff's so hard to find. So anytime you can find a Classic Record Blue Note, you should grab it. And of course, Classic Records now are going for 75, 100, 150 bucks now for these pressings, which is, you know, it's crazy how things are just getting so out of control, especially for a guy like Mobley. Mobley's one of those guys that if he shows up on your record automatically becomes more collectible. You could have 10 records. If one has Mobley, that one's going for 2 or 3 times what all the other records you have are. Yeah, it's an interesting lineup. Chambers and Taylor are on fire with Clark. Porter, Hardman, and Mobley. It's just not a very Blue Note horn section. And so it doesn't have that same intensity of some of the later Lee Morgan stuff, Donald Byrd stuff, just Curtis Fuller. Those guys had a real simpatico where they were kind of on the same page. And not to say Hardman and Porter weren't. I just don't have enough knowledge of their repertoire. And this album has a bit of a looser, less aggression. It's still got an up-tempo bass to it. It's still these early seeds of hard bop here really come into shape. The Clifford Brown, Max Roach quintets really kind of changed the landscape. So all the young kids are trying to play that, and they really do a great job. And this record, if you buy an original, if you can find one, can go for thousands of dollars for not even great copies of it. I've never seen an original in person, which could be said for a lot of the 1500 stuff. They're just not out there. You don't see them in stores. They pretty much always end up in auctions at this point. But what a great record by one of the greats that always deserves a little bit more light shone on them, Hank Mobley. If you're a beginner to jazz, Mobley's a guy you should dive into. His records will always be rewarding. You'll always want to go back to them. And it's not someone you'll get tired of. I promise you, if you love Sun Ra, you won't in 20 years. I promise you, if you love the heavy avant-garde and free, a lot of that stuff you're not going to want to listen to on a daily basis at some point. Stuff like this will never fall out of favor. It's never going to be that I'm not in the mood for that. And I think when you get enough records is when you get to the point where you can say, you know what, just because I own it doesn't mean I have to love it or listen to it all the time. This is what I'm into more. This is what I like more. This is what I feel. And people need to be honest with themselves as collectors. Just because everyone's saying, oh, you have to have a record doesn't mean you have to love it. You know, love what you love. It's the same with drinking wine. Just because someone says, oh, this is a highly rated French whatever, doesn't mean you have to love it. You can get a $14 bottle of wine that is as good and as more to your palate than a $300 bottle of wine. I worked at a liquor store for a long time. You could have really expensive wine that you don't like at all. Like, ugh, not my thing. And I've had wines in the $14 to $20, $25 range that are outstanding. $7, not so much. But in that mid-range, definitely you can get some really great stuff. Love what you love. Don't feel obligated to love anything you don't love. If someone says, oh, Cecil Taylor Unit Structures is the best thing ever, you have to have it. No, you don't. Listen to that online before you even bother to buy that. And if you like furniture falling down the stairs, then buy it. But I'm guaranteeing you, 9 out of 10 of you in 10 years won't put that record on very often. So don't spend a lot on it. But records that have a staying power, I think that's where we should focus. Focus on records and reviewing records that people across the board will love forever. And Mobley definitely fits that bill. So again, kind of an abridged episode today. Got a lot of stuff going on. Back to DJing again, so I'm multifaceted between the coffee shop stuff, trying to get this, keeping up with YouTube, and getting my DJs to work together, and plus family, wife, all that stuff still happening as well. And plus we're still working on the basement some as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now. And if I've not responded to some messages, I apologize. I try to always respond as much as I can. And I've also had a number of messages again that show up in my alerts, and when I click on to open them, they're not there. And so there's honestly been a few very interesting, intriguing that I can see the first few lines of. When I click it and try to open it, I can't. It's not there. And so there's a few people who asked me some interesting stuff that I wanted to respond to that I couldn't. So if you watch my channel, you go, why didn't you respond to me? Sometimes I'm not able to. And people have told me, well, maybe they deleted it. But I've also talked to people that said, I've never deleted that. I don't know why you didn't get that. So whether it's one of the hinky things about the internet ether is you don't always have control over everything. And when you're my age, you don't have control over much of it often. So y'all be good. Talk to y'all soon. Dig your Mobley. Dig your Blue Notes. Again, we'll be back with more soon. Hoping to make it more of a real episode. Probably Friday or Saturday morning. See how things go this week. Y'all be safe. Peace.